What is going on, everybody? Today we're going to be starting to do something a little different. I realize I've been putting out a ton of decks, and that's awesome, and you guys have, been responding to that very favorably. But I decided that there's still a gap in the content on my channel, and that gap, I believe, is we're not really catering to some newer players. So what I'm going to try and do over the next handful of days is spotlight a variety of different budget decks, or potential budget decks, at least starting off, jumping off points. And in addition to that challenge, because, budget decks are not super easy, in addition to that challenge, I'm going to try and not just have it be, more or less a build a Harley aggro deck, which is kind of like the go-to budget suggestion in this game, I feel like. And that is a perfectly viable deck, and, you should probably look into it as an option if you are a newer player. But what I wanted to do is start showing you other ways and other decks that you can build, and then as you gain more cards, you can kind of tweak these deck lists as you go and kind of grow it from a budget list into a more quote-unquote real list. So to start things off for today, we are rocking a Batman-Superman deck. We're trying to run just a lot of shield because I was looking at the might cards, and there are a good amount of cards with shield that are common and uncommon. So that was my deck building restrictions. No super rare, no ultimates, only common and uncommon cards. And we tried to build kind of like a mid-range shield-focused deck. So we're rocking Alfred just because I think Alfred's a good card, and draw is never a bad thing. Same logic for a question. Superman, Robot, Super Strength, Steve Trevor are our next three. Steve Trevor charging up your Batman or your Superman is really good. Superman Robot is more shield synergy. Super Strength on shield cards is really good. You can kind of sometimes get 2-for-1 value out of those guys swinging twice. Then we've got Utility Belt, Wildcat to buff some of our shield guys. Again, when I have shield recruits, I tend to value buffs even more because you're kind of getting double value out of it. You could consider running Bibbo in your deck. I did not, but it is an option for some more draw. Then Crypto and Lois Lane round out our bronzes. For our silvers, we are rocking Miss Martian, getting additional value out of Crypto or Wildcat or even something like Alfred, Steve Trevor. We have a lot of good deploy abilities, so Miss Martian's just a good body in general. And when you can't play things like Robin because he's super rare, or Batwing because he's super rare, Miss Martian I think is a very good substitute. Kong Keenan can just be very annoying to deal with unless your opponent is playing tactics. Straight Jacket, just because I felt like we needed something for, bigger, hard-to-answer things. This felt like a decent answer. Huntress, because the 5/5 body with Hunter is one of the better stat lines you can get in the common to uncommon slot. Again, we don't have Robin at our disposal here. Superboy, more shield synergy, 4/4 shield is solid. Gordon, just a good card in general. Bat Cycle, again, because we want to charge our Superman as much as possible. And Queen Hippolyta, because she's a board-wide buff. For our golds, my main question mark here was the Signal. We'll get to him, though. We're rocking Mr. Miracle, just because he's a really good card. 8 health is a lot. Aura and Evade is very good. Supergirl is good because she buffs more shield recruits. I just think she's a good card, especially for this list. Signal, the only reason why I don't feel great about Signal is that 4 health point became a lot more tricky with now Whack-A-Man getting buffed so it sees more play. Energy Blast being a thing, Hellblaze being a thing. There's a lot of things that can deal 4 damage, so Signal's not super safe, but in the absence of having better gold options, I decided to give him a shot. You could also consider running Mr. Terrific if you slot a couple zero-cost cards into your deck. So yeah, that's the deck. Let's go ahead and hop on to some games and see how we can do. Alrighty, we've got ourselves a match here. Let's see what we're playing against. It is a Green Lantern Wonder Woman deck. So this should be a pretty good test, because Lanterns can high roll and get very strong very quickly. I think Straight Jacket might actually be very good against this opponent. If they super stack a Lantern early, we can Straight Jacket down. But my main goal is going to be probably going Question turn 1 into Superman Robot turn 2. Although I may even save Superman Robot and go Superman Robot Kong on turn 3. Depends on what we draw. And thankfully we have Question to help us draw some more cards. Alright, so we have Utility Belt as an option next turn as well. Main thing we have to be concerned about is turn 2, their Wonder Woman will be active, so we have to keep that in mind. And they do have the turn 1 Chase-A-Lon. Do they have turn 1 Chase-A-Lon with turn 1 Chip? They do. So they could pop off here. definitely want to get rid of Chase Alon. Let's go ahead and grab the Batarang so we can snipe Chase Alon from here. We might lose our chance to activate Kong next turn, but I think we kind of have to do it. And then we'll just play out the robot. They can just, you know, Wonder Woman swing into this and kill it with Chip, but we're just trying to get into the mid-game against this deck. Our Kong is unlikely to have good value here. We might even be able to hold on to Kong. If they just go all in on a Lantern, we can straightjacket it down. I don't think there's a world where they get greedy and don't swing into the robot, but if they do, Kong will be incredible next turn. I just don't think it's likely. We do have Batman activated next turn, and we can potentially activate Superman with Bat Cycle.
May the gods grant us their favor.
Okay. That wasn't terrible. So what I think we are going to do here is go Crypto into Kong. And I will shield Batman. We will play out Kong. So he gets shield. Let's activate Batman.
You tricks up my sleeve.
I'm gonna grab the grapnel gun because there is a world where we can get some good value out of bouncing Crypto. Next turn we have Superman activated, which should be able to deal with basically any Lantern. We also have a shielded Kong, which should be able to deal with basically any Lantern.
Fully charged.
Kilowog will make this survive the trade, which would be unfortunate, but you know, Kilowog is just always a possibility. We can't play around Kilowog. With them playing Lantern Cadet, I do feel like Kilowog is coming, and it is. Into Steve. Alright, so like this is kind of it for them. Like if we survive this board, we're good to go. More or less. Let's go Bat Cycle. Gordon is a pretty good draw here. Let's get Gordon out. We're going to activate probably everything, I'm thinking. Let's go ahead and grab the Batarang. I don't know what I'm going to use it for quite yet. How do I want to handle all of these trades as well? We could just eat 5 with Batman. But I don't love that. But I do really want the squad car to survive this turn. So I swing here, swing here. We also definitely need Superman this turn.
Never stop fighting.
I just need to figure out the order we're going in here. Yeah, let's do that. Let's... These trades are going to look weird, but I promise that there is logic behind it. If they take the favorable trade here with the Cadet, we've got the Batarang to clean up. And that also means we'll be able to grapnel gun Gordon, as well as get Mr. Miracle out. Alright, they've got the Kaiju, which we can arrest that as well. So I think we're doing okay. Yep, and that's exactly what we thought they'd do. Let's kill that first and foremost. Let's arrest on that guy. Right, because we can't kill Kyle behind him. Take him out. I think we're just gonna plop a Mr. Miracle right in front of Batman for a potential Hippolyta bounce Hippolyta next turn, which could be really, really good. Obviously, Gordon can die this turn if they go for a Kyle plus trade. We've gotten some great value out of Kong, and they're just gonna retreat. So we just completely shut down Lanterns with a Chase-Alon chip turn 1. And we did it with a budget deck. And that's kind of exactly how you want the deck to play out, is use your shields to kind of make favorable trades, control the board, keep your Batman and Superman swinging. That is the general mindset of the deck. What I want to do next is, let's go ahead and hop into the card library and take a look at, let's say theoretically you build this budget deck. What are the kinds of things you want to look forward to as you kind of pull and draw more cards? So for a hot second, actually I don't like this view. Let's just go look at the regular cards. So as we're looking through, we're going to scroll through both Might and Tactics, and we're going to see what cards you would add as you pull cards from packs. Your obvious picks, are going to be things like Robin down the road. But honestly, Might is pretty good at having powerful cards not be high rarity, like for at least the early game cards. Like Clark Kent is something you could YOLO in there, but I don't really think necessarily that is always an improvement. It's really just if you high roll, it's good. As you gain more gold cards, you could consider 10th Metal, but honestly, 10th Metal is like very far down the line once you have higher quality gold cards. It's not worth it in the initial phases of the deck. Things like Lobo can always get tossed in because it's a pretty solid card. A 6/6 is just good stats. You could always consider tossing Lobo in if you pull him. Another card that I didn't run that you could run is Steel. You could also run Aquaman. I did not run Aquaman despite him being free from the comic. I just wanted to completely stick to the deck building restrictions, but keep in mind that as long as you play the first comic, you should have Aquaman to run in your deck. A gold that you could consider running, or not gold, 2 super rares that you could consider running in the deck that we ran is Power Girl. Has great shield synergy, and I think you should have some free copies from the pre-register event if you did that. So Power Girl, something to keep in mind, as well as Truth and Justice. I think you get 1 copy for free in your starter decks, but again, wanted to stick to the deck building restrictions, so keep these 2 cards in mind as golds you could add to your deck as you kind of fill out. Wonder Woman also is another decent option. I wouldn't say a top tier option, but a decent option to keep in mind. From the tactics side of things, Detective Chimp is a big one. Just a really, really good card. 2/3 with Evade with a potential draw card is a really strong thing to add to your repertoire. 2 bronzes I considered adding were actually both Misfit and Nightshade. Hunter's good for, like, you saw on turn 1 how we had to try and hit that Chase-Alon from behind a blocking chip. Thankfully, we had Utility Belt plus the Question with Hunter, but Misfit could have won for 1 on Chase-Alon. I just think that's a pretty decent early game recruit. Nightshade, I think, is underrated as well, but you don't necessarily have to run her. Now, when we get into the silvers and golds, are where we have some cards that, as you pull them, definitely consider running. Batwing for sure, especially if you're running Batman as a leader. Tons of synergy there. Catwoman, I think, is a great card, especially as a budget player. If Catwoman is one of your early ultimates, you can use Catwoman to steal golds from your opponent's deck and then kind of gives you that higher card quality, even if your deck may be missing it on your side. Same thing with Green Arrow. I think he's a great card for mid-range type decks. I would not run Lucius. One we're not really that kind of a slow deck, and we're not running a ton of gadget generation, just kind of a little bit. If you pull Batwing and you add, what's that bronze card? Bluebird to your deck, you could consider running Lucius. I just think it's a little bit too slow for the tempo that this deck is trying to generate with those shield plays. Robin, absolutely. Toss that bad boy into your deck as soon as you grab him. Robin's just an incredible card. One of the best silvers in the game. And then out of these guys, I really don't think a lot of them are super priority. Like, Martian Manhunter is decent just because we have a lot of good deploy effects. Cyborg, if you run a lot of gadget generation, can be okay. But honestly, I don't think you even really run most of those a lot of the time. I think what you're really looking for in terms of improving this deck as you build it out is grabbing your Robin, maybe getting a Green Arrow, maybe getting Catwoman and Chimp, maybe tossing in Batwing. You get a lot of card quality in that silver and that one bronze slot. Honestly, I think this is a pretty decent deck to start and build from. And if you don't want to just kind of... If you're not the type of player where you just want to slam aggro decks for your budget decks, this kind of gives you a more mid-rangey strategy. And I think there's a lot of obvious ways to add to it as you start pulling cards. So it's kind of easy to improve and kind of gets you used to the idea of deck building in this game, which is something, it's a skill that you need to learn on top of regular gameplay as well. So yeah, that's going to be it for now, guys. Hope you all enjoyed. Let me know if you found this helpful. I'm trying to find some more budget resources, so we're going to have some other budget decks using basically just the starter leaders as the days go on. Hopefully you guys find these at least interesting, if not interesting, and valuable. So yeah, thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you guys next time. Peace.